Marcus Ellis, a wealthy black CEO known for his humility, navigates the tight-knit Brookside community, where underlying racial prejudices and systemic corruption threaten his efforts to foster inclusivity. At the Brookside Festival, tensions escalate when Tyler Brooks, a rival businessman, orchestrates sabotage to undermine Marcus's initiatives. Confrontations with biased law enforcement officers and confrontational antagonists reveal deep-seated racism and resistance to change. Despite facing public humiliation and relentless discrimination, Marcus remains steadfast, determined to expose and combat the injustices that divide his beloved town. The sun hung low in the late afternoon sky, casting a warm golden hue over the quaint neighborhood of Brookside. Tree-lined streets meandered through the town, their leaves rustling softly in the gentle breeze. At the heart of Brookside stood Serenity Cafe, a beloved local spot known for its homemade pastries and welcoming atmosphere. Its large windows framed the scene inside, where patrons enjoyed their meals and conversations beneath the soft glow of pendant lights. Marcus Ellis stepped through the cafe's doors, a sense of familiarity and comfort washing over him. Despite his towering presence in the business world as the CEO of Ellis Enterprises, Marcus preferred the simplicity and authenticity of his daily routine here. His tailored suit, though impeccably pressed, seemed almost out of place in the casual setting. Yet he wore it with a humility that endeared him to the regulars. Marcus was a man of many contrasts. To the outside world, he was a symbol of success and power, a trailblazer in an industry dominated by legacy companies. Yet, within the walls of Serenity Cafe, he was just another patron, someone who cherished the small joys of life. A perfectly brewed cup of coffee, the laughter of friends, and the warmth of community. As he approached the counter, the barista, a young woman named Jasmine, looked up and smiled. Her dark curls framed her face, and her eyes sparkled with genuine happiness each time she saw him. "Hey, Marcus. The usual?" she greeted, her voice carrying the friendly cadence that made the cafe feel like a second home. "Good afternoon, Jasmine." "Yes, please," Marcus replied, his voice steady and calm. He reached into his pocket for his wallet, ready to settle his bill, but hesitated. "Actually, could I get a chai latte today? Feeling a bit adventurous." Jasmine laughed softly, her hands already moving to prepare his order. "Chai latte, it is coming right up." Marcus took a seat at his favorite corner table by the window, where he could watch the world go by while enjoying his drink. As he settled into the worn leather chair, his mind drifted to the events of the past few weeks. Brookside had been his sanctuary, a place where he could escape the relentless pace of corporate life and reconnect with his roots. But lately, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The town of Brookside, with its picturesque streets and tight-knit community, masked underlying tensions that Marcus was all too familiar with. Despite his success, he often faced subtle prejudices and systemic challenges that reminded him of the barriers he had worked tirelessly to overcome. Today, however, those challenges seemed to take on a new form. As Marcus sipped his chai latte, the door to Serenity Cafe swung open, and a group of well-dressed individuals entered, their presence commanding attention. Among them was a man in a sharp suit, his demeanor exuding authority and confidence. Marcus recognized him immediately. Jonathan Reed, the newly appointed manager of the prestigious Harborview Hotel, a rival establishment in town. Jonathan's arrival stirred a mix of emotions within Marcus. On one hand, there was a lingering sense of rivalry, an unspoken competition that had quietly simmered between their businesses for months. On the other, there was a deep-seated respect for Jonathan's accomplishments and his commitment to elevating Brookside's hospitality scene. As Jonathan approached the counter to place his order, Marcus couldn't help but observe the subtle dynamics at play. The other patrons seemed to hold their breath, their conversations dwindling to hushed tones as they watched the exchange. There was an unspoken tension, a sense that this encounter was more than just a casual interaction between two successful men. Jasmine caught Marcus's gaze and offered a sympathetic smile, before turning her attention back to Jonathan. "Good afternoon, Mr. Reed. What can I get for you today?" Jonathan glanced around the cafe, his eyes briefly meeting Marcus's before he responded. "I'll have an espresso, please, black." As Jasmine prepared his order, Jonathan took a seat at a table near the center of the cafe, pulling out a sleek laptop from his briefcase. Marcus watched him for a moment, noting the precision in his movements and the focused intensity in his expression. There was a story behind every action. a layer of complexity that Marcus could almost discern through observation alone. Curiosity piqued, Marcus decided to engage. He walked over to Jonathan's table, extending a hand in greeting. "Jonathan Reed, I presume?" Jonathan looked up, momentarily surprised by the interruption. He took Marcus's hand, his grip firm. "Yes, that's me, Marcus Ellis. I've heard a lot about you." Marcus chuckled softly, pulling up a chair opposite Jonathan. "All good. I hope I was just enjoying a quiet afternoon and noticed you here. Decided to say hello." Jonathan nodded, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Thought I'd stop by and see how Serenity Cafe is doing. I've heard it's one of the best spots in town." "Thank you, that's very kind of you," Marcus replied, his tone warm and genuine. "It's been a cornerstone for the community for years." Jonathan's expression shifted slightly, a subtle undercurrent of something unreadable passing through his eyes. "Indeed, speaking of community, I wanted to discuss a potential collaboration between Harborview Hotel and Serenity Cafe. I believe we could create something special together." Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the proposition. "A collaboration? What did you have in mind?" Jonathan leaned forward, his demeanor shifting to a more businesslike posture. "With the upcoming Brookside Festival, there's an opportunity for both our establishments to showcase the best of what we offer. Harborview Hotel has the facilities to host events, and Serenity Cafe has the charm and loyal customer base. Combining our strengths could lead to increased visibility and patronage for both of us." Marcus considered the idea, weighing the benefits against the potential challenges. Collaborations like these could bring prosperity, but they also required trust and mutual respect, elements that had been tested between them over time. "It's an interesting proposal. I'm open to discussing it further. Perhaps we can outline some ideas and see where it takes us." Jonathan nodded, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "Absolutely, I thought as much. Maybe we can schedule a meeting next week to flesh out the details." Before Marcus could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance of the cafe. A group of younger men, dressed in casual attire, pushed their way to the front, their presence exuding a sense of entitlement. The leader, a tall man with a shaved head and an air of arrogance, approached the counter, locking eyes with Jasmine. "Hey, we need a table now. This place is a dump," he demanded, his voice dripping with contempt. Jasmine's smile faltered as she glanced nervously at Marcus, who was still engaged in conversation with Jonathan. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're fully booked tonight. Perhaps you can wait for a table to open up." The man's eyes narrowed, and he took a step closer, invading Jasmine's personal space. "I don't have time to wait. I expect better service than this. If you don't get us a table, I'll be taking my business elsewhere, and telling everyone I know to do the same." Marcus felt a familiar knot tighten in his stomach. He had faced situations like this before, instances where privilege and entitlement clashed with genuine hospitality. Taking a deep breath, he decided to intervene. "Excuse me," Marcus said, rising from his seat and approaching the disgruntled group. "Is there an issue here?" The leader scoffed, looking Marcus up and down as if assessing him. "Yeah, there is. We walked in here expecting some decent service, but all you got was a 'no table available' spiel. What kind of place are you running?" Marcus maintained his composure, his voice calm and measured. "We strive to accommodate all our guests to the best of our ability. If there's a particular issue, I'd be happy to address it." The man's expression twisted with frustration. "I don't see why it's such a big deal. We deserve better than this. Maybe you need to step up your game." Before the situation could escalate further, Jonathan cleared his throat, stepping forward from his table. "Is there something I can assist with here?" The leader glanced at Jonathan, momentarily distracted by his presence. "Yeah. This guy was just telling me how terrible the service is." Jonathan's eyes flickered between the two men, a silent understanding passing between them. "Perhaps we can find a solution that works for everyone." Marcus noticed the shift in the atmosphere and felt a surge of relief. The presence of another authoritative figure seemed to diffuse the tension, at least temporarily. "Let's all take a moment to calm down and discuss this respectfully," Marcus suggested. The leader huffed, glancing back at his companions, who were starting to murmur among themselves, their impatience growing. "Fine, but this better get sorted out quickly." As they sat down at a nearby table, Marcus turned to Jonathan. "Looks like your presence is already making a difference." Jonathan gave a slight nod, his gaze fixed on the group. Sometimes, all it takes is a little diplomacy. Maya, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile, approached the table where Marcus and Jonathan were seated. "Is everything all right here?" she asked gently, her concern evident. Marcus gestured towards the younger men. "Just handling a bit of a misunderstanding. We're working on a solution." Maya nodded, offering her assistance. "If you need any help, feel free to let me know." "Thank you, Maya," Marcus replied, appreciating her support. As the conversation continued, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on the underlying issues that plagued even the most seemingly harmonious communities. Brookside, like many other towns, was a microcosm of larger societal challenges, prejudices that persisted despite progress, and systemic barriers that continued to hinder true equality. He glanced out the window, observing the interactions of his neighbors. The tension in the cafe mirrored the broader societal tensions he navigated daily as a CEO. Despite his wealth and influence, Marcus remained acutely aware of the delicate balance he maintained between his public persona and his personal values. The leader of the group, whose name Marcus later learned was Tyler Brooks, seemed to hold on to a sense of entitlement that Marcus found both frustrating and disheartening. Tyler's demands were not just about securing a table, they were a manifestation of deeper prejudices that Marcus had encountered throughout his career. As the evening progressed, the situation was eventually resolved. Tyler and his friends were seated at a newly available table, and Jasmine personally ensured they were well taken care of. The tension dissipated, replaced by the usual hum of conversations and laughter that filled the cafe. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. "See, all it takes is a little understanding and cooperation." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "It's more complicated than that, though. This isn't just about seating arrangements, it's about addressing the underlying attitudes that lead to these conflicts in the first place." Jonathan's expression turned serious. "I agree, and that's why collaborations like the one I'm proposing are so important. By working together, we can create environments that promote inclusivity and respect." Marcus felt a surge of optimism. "I'd like that. Brookside deserves nothing less." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cafe, Marcus realized that his role in the community was more significant than he had initially perceived. Here, in this small but vibrant town, he had the opportunity to make a meaningful impact, one interaction at a time. Leaving Serenity Cafe that evening, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges ahead were daunting, but he was determined to navigate them with the same humility and resilience that had brought him success. As he walked down the tree-lined streets of Brookside, the lights of the neighborhood twinkled like stars, each one a beacon of hope and possibility. Little did he know, the events of tonight were merely the beginning of a journey that would test his strength, challenge his beliefs, and ultimately redefine his legacy within the community he cherished. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Marcus Ellis felt a renewed sense of purpose. The interactions at Serenity Cafe had reignited his commitment to fostering a more inclusive and respectful community in Brookside. However, he was acutely aware that one positive evening was just the beginning of a much larger journey. Walking down Maple Street, Marcus noticed the familiar faces of neighbors and friends, each greeting him with a warm smile or a nod. Despite his high-profile status as the CEO of Ellis Enterprises, he remained approachable and grounded, qualities that had endeared him to the Brookside community. Tonight, though, there was an undercurrent of tension in the air that Marcus couldn't quite place. He decided to stop by the local community center, a hub for neighborhood activities and meetings. The building, modest yet inviting, stood as a testament to Brookside's tight-knit nature. As he entered, the scent of freshly baked cookies and the sound of light chatter filled the space. Volunteers were bustling about, preparing for the upcoming Brookside Festival, a cornerstone event aimed at celebrating the town's diversity and unity. Marcus approached the front desk, where Mrs. Linda Harris, the community center's manager, was organizing flyers for various events. Linda was a kind-hearted woman in her 60s, known for her unwavering dedication to the community. "Linda, how are the preparations going?" Marcus asked, his voice steady and friendly. Linda looked up, her eyes lighting up with recognition and warmth. "Marcus, We're almost set for the festival, just a few more decorations to hang, and we'll be ready. That's great to hear, Marcus replied, smiling genuinely. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. As he turned to leave, a group of younger men entered the center, their presence immediately commanding attention. Among them was Officer Darren Mitchell, a respected figure in the Brookside Police Department. Darren was known for his strict adherence to rules and his no-nonsense approach to law enforcement. Alongside him were two other officers, their demeanor equally authoritative. Darren approached the front desk, his expression serious. "Linda, have you received the latest report on the festival permits? We need to ensure everything is in order to avoid any issues." Linda nodded, her hands busy with organizing papers. "Yes, Darren, all permits have been submitted and approved. We're on track for a smooth event." Darren glanced around the room, his gaze briefly landing on Marcus as he passed by. "Good to see you, Marcus. Still enjoying the local spots?" he asked, his tone polite but carrying an undercurrent of skepticism. Marcus paused, meeting Darren's eyes with a respectful nod. "Always. Darren, Brookside has a way of keeping things grounded." Darren gave a curt smile before turning his attention back to Linda. "All right, keep me posted on any updates." As Darren and his companions moved towards a back office, Marcus felt a subtle shift in the room's energy. There was an unspoken tension that he couldn't ignore, a hint of something more beneath the surface. Leaving the community center, Marcus decided to head to his office at Ellis Enterprises to prepare for an important meeting scheduled for the next day. The drive through Brookside was peaceful, the streets quiet under the blanket of twilight. Yet, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the day's events were a precursor to something more significant. Upon arriving at his office building, a sleek, modern structure that stood in stark contrast to the charming simplicity of Brookside, Marcus was greeted by his assistant, Rachel. "Good evening, Marcus. Everything is set for your meeting tomorrow." "Thank you, Rachel," Marcus replied, his tone appreciative. "Make sure all the reports are on my desk by 6 p.m. Rachel nodded, her expression professional. "Will do." As Marcus settled into his office, the familiar hum of productivity surrounded him. He reviewed the agenda for the next day's meeting, a discussion on expanding Ellis Enterprises' community outreach programs. It was a cause close to his heart, one that aimed to bridge gaps and address systemic issues within Brookside. However, as he delved into the documents, his thoughts kept drifting back to the interactions at the cafe and the community center. The subtle biases he had encountered, marked by Darren's barely concealed skepticism and the entitlement displayed by Tyler Brooks, were reminders of the pervasive challenges that still lingered in his beloved town. Determined to maintain his composure, Marcus took a deep breath and refocused on his work. He had faced numerous obstacles throughout his career, but he had always managed to navigate them with grace and resilience. Tonight, however, felt different. The opposition seemed more personal, more deeply rooted in the fabric of Brookside. The following morning dawned bright and clear, the sun casting a promising light over the town. Marcus arrived early at the community center, ready to oversee the final preparations for the festival. The air was filled with excitement as volunteers moved about, setting up booths and decorations. The aroma of various cuisines wafted through the air, promising a day of festivities and unity. As he walked through the bustling center, Marcus noticed Officer Darren Mitchell standing near the entrance, speaking with a group of organizers. Darren's presence was imposing, his authoritative stance commanding respect and, at times, unease. Marcus approached him, offering a friendly smile. "Good morning, Darren. Everything looks great for the festival." Darren returned the smile, though it lacked its usual warmth. "Morning, Marcus, glad to see everything is coming together." Before Marcus could respond further, a commotion erupted near one of the booths. A young woman, visibly upset, was arguing with one of the festival organizers about the allocation of space for her booth. The situation was escalating quickly, drawing the attention of several attendees. Marcus moved towards the scene, his calm demeanor steadying the rising tension. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice measured and composed. The organizer, a middle-aged man named Tom, gestured towards the young woman. "She's demanding more space for her booth, claiming she wasn't given a fair chance during the setup." The young woman, Maria, snapped back, her frustration evident. "I spoke with Tom earlier, and he assured me that I would get a spot in the main area. Now he's telling me there's no space left. Marcus placed a reassuring hand on Tom's shoulder. Let's take a step back and see what we can do to accommodate everyone. Darren approached the scene, his eyes narrowing slightly as he assessed the situation. Marcus, perhaps you should handle this, he suggested, his tone implying that the matter required more authority. Marcus glanced at Darren, recognizing the subtle hint of underlying tension. All right, Maria, let's find a solution together. Can you tell me exactly what you need? Maria took a deep breath, her anger giving way to a more manageable frustration. I just want to have a fair chance. My booth offers cultural crafts and homemade goods that I believe will add value to the festival. Tom interjected, We've already allocated the prime spots based on the order of registration, we can't make exceptions now. Marcus maintained eye contact, his voice steady. I understand your concern, Maria. Let's see if there's any flexibility in the current layout. Perhaps we can rearrange some of the booths to make room for your crafts. Maria looked hesitant, but nodded slowly. All right, I appreciate that. As Marcus worked with Tom to reorganize the booths, Darren watched closely, his expression unreadable. The subtle tension between them was palpable, a reflection of the unspoken biases that Marcus often navigated in his professional and personal life. Once the booths were rearranged, Maria moved to her new spot, her demeanor shifting from frustration to gratitude. Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate your help. Marcus smiled warmly. No problem at all. We want everyone to feel welcome and valued here. As the crowd dispersed and the festival began to take shape, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that these small conflicts were indicative of larger systemic issues within Brookside. His interactions with Darren and Tyler had only heightened his awareness of the underlying prejudices that persisted despite progress. Later that afternoon, as Marcus took a moment to step outside and enjoy the crisp evening air, he was approached by Clara Bennett, the owner of Serenity Cafe. Her expression was a mix of concern and determination. Marcus, can we talk? Clara asked, her voice low. Of course, Clara. What's on your mind? Marcus replied, gesturing towards a nearby bench. They sat down, the sounds of the bustling festival fading into the background. Clara took a deep breath before speaking. I've noticed some tension lately, not just between you and certain individuals, but within the community as a whole. It's like the festival is bringing these underlying issues to the surface. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. I've been feeling that too. The encounter with Darren at the community center, the situation with Tyler Brooks, it all feels connected. There's a resistance to change, a reluctance to embrace inclusivity fully. Clara sighed, her eyes meeting Marcus's with empathy. You're right. Brookside has a lot of history, both good and bad. Sometimes, people cling to old ways, even when it's clear that things need to evolve. Marcus felt a surge of frustration, tempered by his commitment to maintaining his composure. I want to make a difference, Clara. I believe we can create a community where everyone feels respected and valued, but it's not going to be easy. Clara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You're doing great, Marcus. It takes courage to stand up against the status quo. Just remember you're not alone in this. As they sat in silence, watching the festival unfold around them, Marcus felt a renewed sense of determination. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but with allies like Clara and his own unwavering resolve, he believed change was possible. That evening, as the festival reached its peak, Marcus found himself in a heated discussion with Tyler Brooks. The rivalry between their establishments had always been understated, but tonight, the undercurrents of resentment bubbled to the surface. Marcus, Tyler began, his tone laced with thinly veiled hostility. I've been watching how you're pushing for changes in Brookside. It's admirable, but you're stirring things up more than necessary. Marcus maintained his calm, his eyes steady. Tyler, the community deserves better. We can't ignore the issues that have been holding us back for too long. Tyler scoffed, leaning in closer. Issues? Or is it just your personal agenda to make everything about diversity and inclusion? Not everyone here wants or needs that kind of intervention. Marcus felt a flash of irritation, but kept his voice even. It's not about an agenda, Tyler. It's about recognizing and addressing the systemic biases that still exist. We owe it to ourselves and the next generation to create a more equitable environment. Tyler's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing. Equitable. You're overstepping, Marcus. This isn't your business. It's mine. Keep your hands out of things you don't understand. Before Marcus could respond, Darren Mitchell stepped between them, his authoritative presence demanding attention. All right, that's enough. This is a public festival, and we don't need this kind of confrontation here. Tyler glared at Darren, then at Marcus. Fine, but don't think this is over. As Tyler walked away, Darren turned to Marcus, his expression conflicted. Look, Marcus, I respect what you're trying to do, but there's a line that shouldn't be crossed. You need to be careful. Marcus felt a surge of frustration, the subtle biases and overt hostility piling up. I understand your concerns, Darren, but progress often requires challenging the status quo. I'm here to make Brookside better for everyone. Darren sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Just be mindful of how you go about it. Not everyone is ready for the changes you're advocating. With that, Darren excused himself, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. The encounter left Marcus feeling both validated and disheartened. The resistance he faced was a stark reminder of the work that still lay ahead. As the night wore on, Marcus attended to various festival activities, ensuring everything ran smoothly. Yet, the weight of the day's confrontations lingered, a constant reminder of the systemic challenges he sought to address. Later that evening, as the festival began to wind down, Marcus found himself reflecting on the day's events. He sat on a bench, the sounds of laughter and music blending with the evening's tranquility. Clara joined him, taking a seat beside him. Today was a mix of successes and setbacks, Clara observed, her voice gentle. But remember, every step forward is progress, no matter how small. Marcus nodded, his gaze fixed on the flickering lights of the festival tents. You're right. It's just frustrating sometimes, feeling like we're fighting an uphill battle. Clara placed a comforting hand on his arm. Change is never easy, especially when it challenges deeply ingrained beliefs. But look at what you achieved today. You handled the conflicts with grace, and you made a difference. Marcus managed a weary smile. Thank you, Clara. Your support means a lot. As they sat in companionable silence, the moon rising high above Brookside, Marcus felt a renewed sense of determination. The day's challenges had only strengthened his resolve to create a more inclusive and respectful community. The road ahead was uncertain, but with allies like Clara and his own unwavering commitment, he believed they could overcome the obstacles. Little did Marcus know, the conflicts he faced today were just the beginning. The brewing tensions in Brookside were poised to escalate, testing his strength and resilience in ways he had never anticipated. The Brookside Festival had been a beacon of hope and unity for Marcus Ellis yet. As the night deepened, the air thickened with unresolved tensions. The vibrant decorations shimmered under the string lights, casting playful shadows across the bustling grounds. Families laughed, children chased each other, and the aroma of diverse cuisines filled the air. It was supposed to be a celebration, a testament to the community's resilience and diversity. Instead, it was teetering on the brink of unraveling. As midnight approached, the festival reached its peak. Marcus moved through the crowd, ensuring everything was running smoothly. He had been working tirelessly alongside Clara Bennett and other volunteers, determined to make this event a success. However, the earlier confrontations with Tyler Brooks and Officer Darren Mitchell gnawed at him, a persistent reminder of the systemic issues still plaguing Brookside. Suddenly, the harmonious atmosphere was shattered by the blaring of a police siren. Red and blue lights flashed in the distance, drawing curious and concerned glances from festival-goers. Marcus's heart raced as he watched Officer Darren Mitchell approach the main stage, flanked by two uniformed officers. His mind raced, trying to anticipate what could have gone wrong. Darren ascended the stage, his face a mask of stern authority. The crowd hushed, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?" Darren's voice boomed through the speakers, commanding respect and eliciting immediate silence. Marcus edged closer to Clara, his concern evident. "What's happening?" he whispered, his eyes scanning the crowd for any signs of unrest. Darren took a deep breath, his expression inscrutable. "We have a situation that needs immediate attention. If you could please remain calm and stay in your designated areas, We'll handle it." Before Marcus could inquire further, a commotion erupted near the entrance of the festival grounds. A group of young men, visibly agitated, were being escorted by the officers. Among them was Marcus's longtime friend, Elijah Johnson, a local artist known for his community murals and advocacy work. Elijah's presence there was unusual, and the tension was palpable. As Elijah was pushed towards the stage, his eyes met Marcus's with a mix of fear and defiance. "Marcus, you need to help me," Elijah pleaded, his voice strained. Marcus felt a surge of panic. "Elijah, what's going on?" Before Elijah could respond, one of the officers stepped forward, placing a hand firmly on his shoulder. "Calm down, Elijah. We need to ask you a few questions." Elijah shook his head, pulling away slightly. "I didn't do anything wrong. Let me go, Marcus. You know me." Darren's eyes narrowed, scrutinizing Elijah. "We have reason to believe you've been involved in some disruptive activities tonight. We'd like to ask you about your involvement with the festival setup." Marcus stepped forward, his calm demeanor belying the turmoil inside. "Officer Mitchell, what exactly are you accusing Elijah of?" Darren's expression remained cold. "We've received reports of unauthorized structures being set up near the main stage, Elijah. Is that true?" Elijah glanced nervously towards Marcus before answering, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was just helping with some art installations. Nothing more." Darren's gaze shifted to Marcus, suspicion lingering. "Is that true, Marcus? Do you have any knowledge of unauthorized activities tonight?" Marcus felt the weight of Darren's scrutiny. "Absolutely not. Everyone here is following the guidelines set by the festival committee. Elijah was just helping out with some creative installations." The crowd watched in silence, the once festive mood now tinged with apprehension. Marcus could feel the eyes of the community on him, their hopes pinned on his ability to navigate this crisis. He glanced back at Elijah, who was now being escorted towards the stage, his face pale but resolute. Clara stepped forward, her voice steady and firm. "Officer Mitchell, Elijah is one of our most dedicated community members. If there's an issue, let's handle it respectfully and professionally." Darren turned his attention to Clara, his expression unchanging. "We appreciate your concern, Ms. Bennett, but this is a matter we need to handle internally. Elijah, please come with us." As Elijah was led away, Marcus felt a knot tighten in his chest. He knew Elijah well, his commitment to the community, his passion for art and advocacy. There was no way Elijah had orchestrated any disruptions intentionally. The situation felt eerily reminiscent of the earlier tensions he had faced, a recurring theme of prejudice and bias that seemed to shadow his every move. Determined to uncover the truth, Marcus approached Darren privately, gesturing for a moment of conversation away from the prying eyes of the crowd. "Darren, what exactly is the issue here?" Darren met his gaze, his tone clipped. "Reports suggest that some of the installations Elijah was involved in violated festival safety regulations. We're conducting a routine check." Marcus's frustration simmered beneath his calm exterior. "Safety is paramount, I agree, but Elijah is meticulous about his work. There must be some misunderstanding." Before Darren could respond, another officer intervened, speaking into his radio. "We've located additional structures that appear to be linked to Elijah." "No, sir. They're not part of the official setup." Marcus's mind raced. "Officer Mitchell, this doesn't add up. Elijah wouldn't jeopardize the festival like this." Darren sighed, frustration evident. "Sometimes people get caught up in things they don't fully understand. We'll handle it from here." As Darren walked away, Marcus turned back to Clara, his determination unwavering. "Clara, we need to find out what's really going on. Elijah's integrity is beyond question. There's something more to this." Clara nodded, her expression resolute. "I'll do what I can. Let me know how I can assist." Marcus felt a surge of gratitude towards Clara. Together, they began to piece together the fragments of the evening's events, seeking to uncover any inconsistencies or hidden motives. As they delved deeper, they discovered unsettling patterns, reports of similar incidents involving other community members who had voiced opposition to certain local developments. The night grew darker, the festival lights casting long shadows across the grounds. Marcus's mind raced with questions and suspicions. Who stood to gain from disrupting the festival? Was there a deeper agenda at play, rooted in systemic corruption and prejudice? Just as Marcus and Clara began to suspect foul play, a new development emerged. A high-ranking official from the Brookside Police Department, Officer Angela Daniels, arrived at the scene, her presence commanding and authoritative. Known for her strict enforcement of the law, Daniels was respected but often feared for her uncompromising stance. "What's the situation here?" Daniels demanded, her eyes scanning the crowd before landing on Marcus and Clara. "Darren was explaining," Marcus began, "that Elijah is suspected of unauthorized activities at the festival." Daniels' gaze sharpened. "And do you have any evidence to support these claims?" Marcus met her gaze steadily. "We believe it's a misunderstanding. Elijah is a respected member of our community, and I vouch for his integrity." Daniels crossed her arms, her expression inscrutable. "Vouching isn't enough. We need concrete evidence before proceeding with any charges." Clara stepped forward, her voice firm. "Officer Daniels, we've reviewed the setups, and there's no violation of safety regulations. Elijah's installations were compliant. There must be some confusion." Daniels raised an eyebrow, a flicker of doubt crossing her features. "I'll need to verify the reports. Until then, Elijah will remain in custody for further questioning." Marcus felt a surge of helplessness. The system was seemingly stacked against him and his friend, the biases and prejudices taking center stage over facts and integrity. He glanced at Clara, who offered a reassuring nod, her own frustration evident. Determined not to let injustice prevail, Marcus made a decision. "If there's any way I can assist in proving Elijah's innocence, please let me know. He's an invaluable part of our community." Daniels considered his offer, then nodded slightly. "We could use your input. Given your involvement with the festival, any additional information you can provide will be helpful." As Marcus and Clara worked alongside the police, sifting through records and eyewitness accounts, the night seemed to stretch endlessly. The festival grounds, once vibrant and alive, now felt cold and oppressive, the festive spirit overshadowed by the unfolding drama. Hours passed, and the tension remained palpable. Finally, Clara returned with a lead. "Marcus, look at this," she said, holding up a security report from a different part of the town. There were similar unauthorized activities reported at the other end of Brookside last week, involving individuals connected to Tyler Brooks. Marcus's eyes widened as he connected the dots. "Tyler. He's been quietly undermining our efforts to foster a more inclusive community. This is no coincidence." As they confronted Darren and presented the new evidence, Daniels's expression shifted from skepticism to concern. "This changes things. If Tyler Brooks is involved, this is no isolated incident. We need to look into this further." Before more could be discussed, a loud crash echoed through the festival grounds. Marcus and Clara rushed towards the sound, only to find a group of masked individuals attempting to sabotage the remaining setups. The attackers moved with precision, targeting key areas to disrupt the festival and tarnish Brookside's reputation. Chaos erupted as attendees scattered, some trying to protect their booths, while others fled in fear. Marcus's heart pounded as he assessed the situation, realizing that this was a coordinated effort to incite fear and division within the community. Darren and Daniels sprang into action, attempting to contain the chaos, but the attackers were swift and elusive. Amid the turmoil, Marcus spotted Tyler Brooks orchestrating the sabotage from the shadows, his face twisted with malice. It was a confrontation he had feared, but was now forced to face head-on. "Tyler!" Marcus called out, his voice cutting through the noise. "This isn't the way to handle your grievances." Tyler turned, his eyes cold and filled with contempt. "You're the reason Brookside is falling apart, Marcus. Your attempts at inclusivity are tearing us apart. This town needs order, not your misguided notions of community." Marcus felt a surge of anger, tempered by his unwavering resolve. Brookside thrives on its diversity. It's what makes our community strong. You're trying to destroy that by force. Tyler sneered, pulling out a device that began emitting a high-pitched frequency, designed to disorient and disable the festival's security systems. "You're about to see what happens when powerful people try to impose their values on a town that doesn't need them." As the frequency disrupted communications and security protocols, Marcus knew they were running out of time. He glanced at Clara, who nodded with determination. "We need to stop him." Summoning all his courage, Marcus stepped forward, his presence commanding. "Tyler, this ends now. You won't destroy what we've built." Tyler laughed bitterly. Look around you. This place is crumbling, and you're too blind to see it. Your so-called inclusivity is a facade, masking the true decay of Brookside. Before Tyler could react, Darren and Daniels moved to intercept him, but Tyler was swift, evading their grasp and making a break for the exit. Marcus chased after him, his heart pounding, adrenaline fueling his steps. Clara followed closely, her presence a steadying force amidst the chaos. As they reached the main entrance, Tyler turned to face them, his face contorted with anger. You can't stop progress, Marcus. This town needs a new direction, one that aligns with my vision. Marcus stood firm, his eyes locked on Tyler's. Progress isn't about exclusion and force, it's about understanding, collaboration, and mutual respect. Brookside deserves better than your tyranny. Tyler's frustration boiled over. You'll see, Marcus. Your ideals will lead to nothing but ruin. With a final glare, Tyler pushed past them and disappeared into the night, leaving Marcus and Clara breathless and determined. The festival grounds, now recovering from the sabotage, buzzed with the collective effort to restore order and safety. Darren and Daniels approached Marcus, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and respect. You handled that well, Marcus, Darren admitted, his earlier skepticism softened by the night's events. Daniels nodded in agreement. Your leadership is exactly what Brookside needs right now. We need to address these systemic issues head-on. Marcus felt a surge of hope. Agreed. We can't let Tyler's actions divide our community. We need to work together to ensure that Brookside remains a place of unity and respect. As the dawn broke over Brookside, the festival grounds stood as a symbol of resilience and determination. The night's events had exposed the deep-seated prejudices and systemic corruption that threatened to undermine the community's progress. Yet, amidst the darkness, the collective spirit of Brookside shone brightly, fueled by Marcus's unwavering resolve and the support of allies like Clara, Darren, and Daniels. In the aftermath, Marcus convened a meeting with key community leaders, including Clara and Officer Daniels, to devise a plan to address the issues revealed by the night's chaos. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer just a successful CEO seeking to give back to his community. He was now a leader, determined to drive meaningful change. As the sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over Brookside, Marcus stood at the front of the community center, addressing a diverse group of residents gathered to discuss the future of their town. The air was filled with a mix of apprehension and hope, the events of the previous night lingering in everyone's minds. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, his voice steady and resolute. Last night was a stark reminder of the work that still lies ahead of us. We cannot ignore the systemic issues that have been festering beneath the surface for far too long, but I believe that together, we can overcome these challenges and build a Brookside that truly reflects the values we all hold dear. The room erupted in a mix of applause and murmurs of agreement, the community's support for Marcus evident. As he continued to outline a comprehensive plan for inclusivity, transparency, and collaboration, the sense of unity in the room grew stronger. The pivotal moment had set the stage for a transformative journey, one that would test Marcus's leadership and the community's resilience. Yet, deep within the shadows of Brookside, forces of resistance and prejudice still lurked, ready to challenge every step Marcus and his allies took towards a more equitable and harmonious future. The stage was set for a climactic confrontation, where the true strength of the community would be tested, and Marcus's resolve would be pushed to its limits. The Brookside Festival grounds, once vibrant with laughter and the aroma of diverse cuisines, now buzzed with an undercurrent of tension. The night's earlier chaos had left lingering unease among the attendees and organizers alike. Marcus Ellis stood at the center of it all, his mind racing with the implications of Tyler Brooks's sabotage and the systemic biases that had come to the fore. As dawn approached, casting a soft glow over the festival grounds, Marcus convened an emergency meeting with Clara Bennett, Officer Angela Daniels, and a few key community leaders. The air was thick with urgency, the weight of the previous night's events pressing down on them all. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Marcus began, his voice steady despite the exhaustion etched on his face. "Last night was a stark reminder of the work we still have to do. Tyler Brooks' actions weren't just about disrupting the festival. They were a deliberate attempt to undermine our efforts to foster a more inclusive Brookside." Clara nodded, her expression resolute. We need to address not just the immediate fallout, but also the underlying issues that allowed this to happen. Officer Daniels, her demeanor professional, yet empathetic, interjected. We've started an investigation into the sabotage, but it's clear that there's more to this than just Tyler acting alone. There are indications of organized efforts to destabilize community events that promote diversity and inclusion. Marcus felt a surge of frustration mixed with determination. We can't let fear and prejudice dictate the future of our community. We need to stand united and take decisive action against those who seek to divide us. As the meeting progressed, strategies began to form. They discussed increasing security measures for future events, launching community awareness campaigns, and establishing a task force to monitor and address systemic biases within Brookside. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of purpose, each person contributing their expertise to combat the growing unrest. However, amidst the planning and strategizing, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was only beginning. The confrontation with Tyler had exposed deeper wounds within the community, wounds that required more than just tactical responses. They demanded a fundamental shift in mindset and behavior. Later that morning, as Marcus reviewed the incident reports, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. He glanced at the screen. It was an unknown number. Hesitant but curious, he answered. "Hello?" A familiar voice responded, cold and dismissive. "Mr. Ellis, we need to talk." Marcus's heart sank as he recognized the tone. It was Tyler Brooks. "Tyler, what do you want?" "I think it's time we settle this once and for all," Tyler replied, his voice dripping with menace. "Meet me at the old warehouse by the docks tonight alone." Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He had always maintained a professional demeanor, but Tyler's invitation was laden with threats and unresolved animosity. "I'm not interested in your games, Tyler. This community deserves better than your petty vendettas." Tyler's laughter echoed through the phone, unnervingly calm. "Oh, but it is my game, Marcus. And you're playing right into my hands." Before Marcus could respond, the call ended abruptly, leaving him staring at the screen in disbelief. The implications were clear. Tyler was escalating his tactics, and Marcus needed to be prepared for whatever confrontation awaited him. Determined not to be intimidated, Marcus turned to Clara and Officer Daniels. "We need to handle this carefully. If Tyler is planning something, we have to anticipate it and protect ourselves and the community." Clara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We'll be ready, Marcus. Together, we can navigate this." As evening descended upon Brookside, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility bearing down on him. The old warehouse by the docks stood ominously against the darkening sky, its windows boarded up and graffiti-covered walls reflecting the neglect it had suffered over the years. It was a stark contrast to the lively festival grounds, a forgotten relic of a town grappling with its identity. Arriving at the warehouse, Marcus was accompanied by Clara and Officer Daniels. The trio approached the entrance cautiously, the silence around them oppressive. The air was thick with anticipation, every shadow seeming to conceal potential threats. Inside, the warehouse was dimly lit, the remnants of forgotten machinery and debris scattered across the floor. At the far end, Tyler stood alone, his figure silhouetted against a single hanging bulb that cast long shadows across the room. "Welcome, Marcus," Tyler greeted, his voice eerily calm. "I've been expecting you." Marcus took a deep breath, his resolve unshaken despite the tension. "Tyler, this doesn't have to end like this. We can work together to make Brookside better." Tyler's eyes gleamed with a mix of hatred and determination. "Better? You think this town needs better? It's a cesspool of hypocrisy and half-hearted progress. I'm here to cleanse it." Before Marcus could respond, Tyler produced a small device from his pocket, pressing a button that triggered a series of blaring alarms. The warehouse was suddenly filled with loud sirens and flashing red lights, a stark signal of an impending lockdown. Officer Daniels sprang into action, pulling out her radio. "Lockdown initiated. All exits are now secured. We need backup immediately." Marcus glanced around, realizing the gravity of the situation. "Tyler, what are you doing?" Tyler smirked, stepping closer. "I wanted to show you the true extent of your so-called community spirit. People like you, with your wealth and influence, think you can change everything with a few meetings and well-intentioned plans, But real power lies elsewhere. Before Marcus could react, the room plunged into darkness as the backup generators failed, leaving only the dim emergency lights flickering overhead. The oppressive silence returned, broken only by the distant sounds of the alarm and their own breathing. In the pitch-black room, Marcus felt a surge of anger and frustration. He had always advocated for peaceful change, for addressing issues through dialogue and collaboration. Tyler's actions were a stark contradiction to everything Marcus stood for. Clara squeezed his shoulder, her presence a silent support. "Stay calm, Marcus, we'll find a way out." But Marcus knew this was more than just a simple confrontation. Tyler was a symbol of the systemic corruption and deep-seated prejudices that had plagued Brookside for years. This was a personal attack, a challenge to everything Marcus had worked to build within the community. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, Marcus noticed Tyler holding a remote control, his finger hovering over another button. "You've underestimated the lengths I'll go to expose the facade of unity you promote. This town needs to see the truth, no matter the cost." Marcus felt his patience wear thin. "You're wrong. Tyler Brookside's strength lies in its diversity and unity. Your actions are tearing us apart, not strengthening us." Tyler's expression hardened. "We'll see about that." Just as Tyler was about to press the button that would permanently disable the emergency systems, Officer Daniels made a decisive move. "Tyler, drop the device now." But Tyler was swift, pressing the button before Daniels could react. The lights flickered violently before the entire warehouse was plunged into complete darkness. Panic ensued as the alarms reached a fever pitch, drowning out any attempt at communication. Marcus's mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. He had to keep everyone safe, to prevent Tyler from causing any more harm. "Clara, Daniels, we need to stay together and find a way out." Clara nodded, her face set with determination. "Agreed. Let's move towards the exit and see if we can override the lockdown." As they navigated through the debris-strewn floor, Marcus felt a sense of urgency gripping him. Every second mattered, and the stakes had never been higher. The tension between him and Tyler had reached its zenith, a culmination of months of underlying conflict and systemic resistance to change. Suddenly, a series of loud bangs echoed through the warehouse, followed by the sight of masked individuals entering the space. Tyler had orchestrated an ambush, bringing in a group to ensure his message was heard loud and clear. The attackers moved with precision, their intentions clear: to disrupt and intimidate. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest as he realized the full extent of Tyler's plan. This was no longer just about a festival or isolated incidents of sabotage. It was a deliberate attempt to instigate fear and chaos within Brookside, to challenge the progress Marcus and his allies had been striving to achieve. Clara pulled Marcus towards a stack of crates, offering herself as a shield. "Stay behind me," she instructed, her voice unwavering despite the danger. Officer Daniels sprang into action, drawing her weapon and taking a defensive stance. "Stay back, Tyler. This ends now." Tyler laughed bitterly, stepping into the dim light once more. "You think you can stop me? Brookside needs a strong hand to guide it, not your naive idealism." Before Tyler could press another button or give another order, the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. Backup had arrived, responding to Officer Daniels' distress call. Reinforcements poured into the warehouse, their presence a beacon of hope amidst the unfolding chaos. Seeing the reinforcements, Tyler hesitated, his grip on the remote loosening slightly. "You think these cops will protect you? They're just as corrupt as the rest of them." But Officer Daniels stood her ground, her eyes meeting Tyler's with unwavering resolve. "Not anymore. We've had enough of your games." With the additional officers surrounding him, Tyler realized his plan was falling apart. In a last-ditch effort, he lunged towards Marcus, attempting to wrest the remote from his grasp. The two men collided, a struggle ensued, and in the ensuing chaos, Tyler's device slipped from his hand, skittering across the floor and deactivating the lockdown system. The lights flickered back on, revealing the aftermath of the confrontation. Tyler was restrained by multiple officers, his face contorted with rage and frustration. The masked attackers were quickly subdued, their intentions thwarted by the swift response of the law enforcement team. Marcus stood tall, his breath steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "This ends now, Tyler. No more fear, no more chaos. Brookside deserves better." Tyler glared at him, a mixture of hatred and resignation in his eyes. "You haven't heard the last of me, Marcus. There are others who feel the same way I do. We'll see who truly holds the power in this town." As Tyler was led away, the warehouse began to calm. The immediate threat neutralized, Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him, tempered by the realization of the deeper battles that lay ahead. The confrontation had been intense, pushing him to the brink, but his resolve remained unshaken. Clara approached him, her face reflecting both concern and pride. "You handled that well, Marcus. You kept your cool under pressure." Marcus nodded, his mind already strategizing the next steps. "We need to expose the systemic corruption that allowed Tyler to gain this level of influence. It's not enough to just stop him. We need to dismantle the structures that enable this kind of behavior." Officer Daniels joined them, her expression serious. "I agree. This isn't just about one man, it's about the pervasive issues within our community. We'll need to conduct a thorough investigation and bring those responsible to justice." As the first rays of sunlight pierced through the warehouse windows, Marcus felt a renewed sense of determination. The night's events had tested his strength and resilience, but they had also solidified his commitment to creating meaningful change in Brookside. The stakes were higher than ever, and the battle against systemic corruption and prejudice was just beginning. With Clara and Officer Daniels by his side, Marcus knew he wasn't alone in this fight. Together, they would confront the challenges head-on, striving to build a Brookside that truly embodied the values of unity, respect, and inclusivity. But as Marcus left the warehouse, the lingering threat of Tyler's words haunted him. The battle for Brookside's soul was far from over, and the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. The pivotal moment had set the stage for a climactic confrontation, where the true strength of Marcus and his allies would be tested like never before. The first light of dawn began to pierce through the remnants of the night's chaos, casting long shadows across the Brookside festival grounds. The air was thick with exhaustion and lingering tension, the aftermath of Tyler Brooks's sabotage still palpable. Marcus Ellis stood at the center of it all, his mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and systemic corruption that threatened the very fabric of the community he cherished. As the festival grounds slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, Marcus knew that the confrontation with Tyler was far from over. The revelation that Tyler was orchestrating a larger scheme to destabilize Brookside weighed heavily on him. Determined to root out the corruption and prejudice that had infiltrated his beloved town, Marcus convened an urgent meeting with Clara Bennett, Officer Angela Daniels, and Officer Darren Mitchell. "We need to act swiftly," Marcus began, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "Tyler Brooks isn't acting alone. There are deeper layers of corruption here that we need to expose." Clara nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "I agree, last night was just the tip of the iceberg. We need concrete evidence to bring these issues to light." Officer Daniels leaned forward, her expression serious. "We've already started looking into Tyler's connections. There are links to several influential figures in Brookside who have been turning a blind eye to systemic issues for years. If we can compile enough evidence, we can take legal action against them." Officer Mitchell, who had been silent until now, added, "Tyler has a lot of influence, not just in business, but also within the local government. We need to be careful not to tip our hand too early." Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon him. "I've been gathering information as well. I've discovered irregularities in the festival permits and some financial discrepancies in Tyler's businesses. It's clear that he's using these events to mask his true intentions." As the team strategized, the sun climbed higher, illuminating the extent of the damage left by Tyler's actions. Marcus felt a surge of frustration, knowing that even in a seemingly peaceful community, the shadows of prejudice and corruption could run deep. Yet, his resolve only hardened. He had built Ellis Enterprises from the ground up, overcoming barriers and biases along the way. Now, it was time to leverage his influence and resources to protect Brookside. That afternoon, Marcus decided to take a proactive approach. He scheduled a meeting with the Brookside Police Department's Internal Affairs Division, seeking to address the corruption within the ranks. As he walked into the department, the imposing structure of the building seemed to echo the rigidity of the system he was up against. He was greeted by Detective Laura Simmons, a seasoned officer with a reputation for integrity. "Mr. Ellis, "Thank you for coming," Detective Simmons greeted him, extending a hand. "How can we assist you today?" Marcus shook her hand firmly. "Detective, I believe there's a network of corruption linked to Tyler Brooks that's affecting our community. I have evidence that points to systemic issues within both the private and public sectors of Brookside." Simmons nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "Go on." Over the next hour, Marcus presented his findings: financial records, internal memos, and witness testimonies that painted a troubling picture of collusion and prejudice. He detailed how Tyler had been leveraging his influence to manipulate festival permits, silencing dissent, and fostering an environment of exclusion under the guise of maintaining order. Detective Simmons listened intently, her expression growing more serious with each revelation. "This is substantial, Marcus. If what you're saying is accurate, this could have far-reaching implications for Brookside." Marcus felt a surge of hope. "I believe it's time we take a stand. We need to expose this corruption and hold those responsible accountable. Brookside deserves better." Simmons leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with the possibilities. "I'll initiate a formal investigation. It will take time, but with your cooperation, we can bring these issues to light." As Marcus left the police department, a sense of purpose filled him. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but he was ready to confront them head-on. The support from Clara, Daniels, and now Detective Simmons fortified his determination to cleanse Brookside of its hidden prejudices and corruption. That evening, Marcus hosted a community meeting at the local town hall, inviting residents to discuss the ongoing issues and the steps being taken to address them. The room was filled with concerned faces, a mix of hope and apprehension evident in their expressions. As he stood before the crowd, Marcus felt the weight of their expectations. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice strong and clear, "Brookside has always been a community that prides itself on unity and inclusivity. However, recent events have exposed underlying issues that we must confront together. I am committed to ensuring that our town lives up to its values, free from corruption and prejudice." The crowd responded with a mixture of applause and murmurs of agreement. Clara stood beside him, offering silent support, while Officer Daniels and Darren observed from the back, their presence a reminder of the ongoing fight against systemic corruption. As the meeting progressed, Marcus outlined the steps being taken to investigate and address the corruption, emphasizing the importance of community involvement and transparency. He encouraged residents to come forward with any information that could aid in the investigation, fostering a sense of collective responsibility. However, amidst the supportive atmosphere, Marcus sensed a growing unease. Several community members seemed hesitant to speak up, their fear of retaliation palpable. It was a stark reminder of the pervasive influence Tyler and his allies held over Brookside. Later that night, as Marcus walked home through the quiet streets of Brookside, he received an unexpected phone call. The screen displayed a familiar name: Tyler Brooks. "Hello, Marcus." Tyler's voice was cold and unyielding. "I see you've been busy stirring the pot, but Brookside isn't ready for the changes you're pushing for." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine, but he maintained his composure. "Tyler, this isn't personal. It's about doing what's right for our community." Tyler laughed bitterly. "Right for the community? You think exposing a few corrupt officials is going to fix everything? You're naive, Marcus." Before Marcus could respond, the call was abruptly disconnected. He stared at his phone, frustration and determination battling within him. It was clear that Tyler was not going to back down, and the confrontation between them was escalating beyond what Marcus had anticipated. The following day, Brookside was abuzz with anticipation for the annual charity gala, an event that drew attendees from all walks of life to support local causes. Marcus had taken on the responsibility of organizing the gala, using it as an opportunity to further promote unity and inclusivity within the community. As guests began to arrive, the grand ballroom was adorned with elegant decorations, the atmosphere brimming with hope and generosity. Marcus moved through the crowd, engaging with residents and ensuring everything was in order. Yet, the earlier tension still lingered, a shadow over the festivities. Halfway through the evening, as Marcus mingled with guests, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of masked individuals, resembling the attackers from the festival, had infiltrated the gala, their intentions clear. Panic swept through the room as the guests scrambled for safety, the harmonious evening descending into chaos once more. Amid the turmoil, Tyler Brooks emerged from the shadows, his eyes locked onto Marcus with a mix of rage and determination. "This ends now, Marcus. You can't stop the inevitable changes. Brookside needs a strong leader to guide it, not your futile attempts at unity." Marcus stepped forward, his voice unwavering despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Tyler, this isn't the way to lead. Brookside thrives on its diversity and the strength of its community. Your actions are tearing us apart." Tyler's expression twisted with anger. "You think you can protect this town from the truth? I've seen the fractures, the underlying prejudices that you and your allies have been blind to. It's time to expose them, and you're standing in my way." As Tyler advanced towards him, the room held its breath, the tension between the two men palpable. Marcus could feel the eyes of the community on him, their hopes and fears mirrored in his own determination. He knew that this confrontation was the culmination of months of struggle, and the outcome would define the future of Brookside. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the ballroom as one of the masked attackers attempted to disrupt the gala once more, drawing Darren Mitchell into the fray. Officer Daniels quickly joined him, her presence a stabilizing force amidst the chaos. Together, they moved to protect Marcus and the guests, engaging the attackers with swift precision. In the midst of the turmoil, Clara Bennett approached Marcus, her expression filled with concern. "We need to stop Tyler before he causes any more harm," she urged, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "Agreed. We can't let him destroy everything we've worked for." As the battle against the attackers intensified, Marcus and Tyler found themselves locked in a tense standoff near the center of the ballroom. The room was filled with a cacophony of alarms, shouts, and the sounds of struggle, each moment heightening the stakes. Tyler pulled out a hidden weapon, his intent clear. "I won't let you dictate the future of Brookside. It's time for a change, one that you can't control." Marcus felt a surge of anger and fear, but refused to back down. Brookside's future isn't something that can be dictated by fear and violence. It's built on the strength of its people, their unity, and their resilience. As Tyler aimed his weapon, the room seemed to hold its breath, the fate of Brookside hanging in the balance. Just as the tension reached its peak, Darren Mitchell stepped between them, his voice firm. "Enough, Tyler, this stops now." In that moment, the room fell silent, except for the distant sounds of chaos. Marcus and Tyler stood face to face, the culmination of their conflict poised on the edge of a knife. The air was thick with anticipation, the outcome uncertain, as the community watched in silent hope and fear.